Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Dr. Carmen Bryant, and this is Car Chronicles. You guys ready? Well, all right, let's do this. Some of you are saying, I just want them to love me. I just want them to care about me. I'm going to love the hell out of them. I'm going to love them where they'll realize how much I love them and they'll start loving me. That'll never happen. You can't make somebody love you. You can't make somebody change their character. It doesn't matter how much you love them. You're looking at them through the lenses of your own good self. You're putting your own qualities on that person under the assumption that they're like you, and they're not. And most people look at a narcissist and you're trying to figure out, I just don't understand how can they hurt someone like this. I just don't understand how a person can be like this. There's just no way, because I'm not like that. I don't think like that. I would never do that to my children. I would never do that to someone that I love. Well, now think about it. You're all about yourself. The very thing that you don't like about them is the very thing that you're doing yourself. You're superimposing yourself onto someone else with the assumption that they're like you. And a narcissist is nothing like you. You've never been a narcissist. You never thought like a narcissist. Well, some people have narcissistic traits, so you may think like them. You know, you may do certain things, but it's not a consistent thing. So you can't understand how can a person be like this for a long period of time. When you have narcissistic traits, sometimes you're selfish and it's like you're protecting yourself, or you're doing the same thing that you were exposed to when you were with a narcissist, or you grew up in a narcissistic family until you learn the difference. And then when you learn the difference and you realize how much it hurts people, your empathy kicks in and you want to change. You don't want to be like that person because you see how ugly it is. But some of you guys are superimposing your goodwill, your good thoughts, your good, you are superimposing yourself on that person. And so you're wanting to change someone. People do not change because you want them to change. People change when they want to change. In Alcohol Anonymous, for example, what does this say? First of all, you've got to have a revelation. You have to have an understanding that, hey, hi, my name is, and I am a alcoholic. You come to terms with the fact that I realize this is what I am. I don't know what to do after that. I just know this is what I am. I need help. Please help me. And people around you in that support group will start telling you about how you may think and the things that they've done and how they've recovered. And you start implementing those things in order to change. Well, the narcissist is not going to sit there and tell you, hi, I am dysfunctional. I tear up every relationship that I get into. I'm selfish. I'm going to try to control you. I have a low self-esteem. I have a low self-worth. They're not going to say that, because that feeds into their low self-esteem. That feeds into their narrative that they already have about themselves. Remember, when you're dealing with a narcissist, they're creating an illusion of perfection. They're creating something that does not exist. They're creating an image of themselves that doesn't exist. That's why the more grandiose they are, the bigger that they make themselves, you realize the bigger that you're making yourself is the smaller that you really are. And the one thing that I want you to know is that fear feeds that image. The more fear they can invoke in someone, the more powerful, I choked on my own words, but the more fear you feed them, the bigger they get in their own head. But the bigger you make them big by the fear that you're feeding them. And I want to say this, a narcissist thinks that they're a god anyway. So they want the adoration, they want the affirmation, they want all your attention to a point where you're exhausted at how much attention you have to give them, how much adoration, how much you have to, make them feel like there's someone. So you are worshiping at the altar of a narcissist. And the one thing that they know is if you feed them fear, they can get bigger. And let me explain something real quick. A fire needs three things: fuel, oxygen, heat. A narcissist needs a source of supply. That source of supply will provide them with fuel, because that narcissist is going to ignite that fire by getting reaction. So by getting reaction, that source of supply is going to give that narcissist fuel. That narcissist is going to ignite reaction. Remember that. And they're going to get fuel. And as long as that narcissist can instill fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, and they cater to your fear, they can get a copious amount of fuel from you to keep that fire going. So what happens when you want to put out a fire. When you want to put out a fire, you have to take one of the sources away. To extinguish the fire, you got to take one of the sources away, or elements, which is you take away either the oxygen, you take away the fuel, or you take it and it eliminates the fire, basically. So how do you extinguish the fire that narcissist keeps setting? One of the most basic principles is to take away the source of supply, which is you. Or take away, well, you're going to have to take yourself away. Or you've got to extinguish the fire by stop feeding the fire that fuel, which is fear. They live off of fear. And you're going to give them any kind of reaction. You're going to appease them. You know, you are worshiping at the altar of the narcissist because that narcissist has now become your personal God. That's just like back in the Egyptian days, the pharaohs were considered gods in Egypt, and they wanted the worship because they were the ones who, well, you guys know the history of Egypt, but the pharaohs were considered to be gods, the equivalent of gods. And so the narcissist is the same way. The narcissist has become the pharaoh in your life. And the way that you keep feeding and strengthening that narcissist is by feeding that narcissist fear. When you shut down, let me tell you something, a narcissist is the most scariest person in the world. And for most of you guys, you think to yourself, that's not true because that narcissist is dangerous. Absolutely. But the more dangerous they became is because of the fact you kept feeding them fuel. So what happened is we created this monster. We created this big dragon. And in actuality, you're dealing with a dragonfly. But by feeding them that fear, it made them bigger and bigger, and it gave them strength, and it built them up. So now they can use extreme methods to maintain control over you, but they're feeding off of that fear. Once you stop fearing that narcissist, now I'm not saying you guys go out here and be a superhero, and some of you guys want to go out here and fight like you a part of Marvel Comics. That's not what I'm saying. Some of you guys have to remove yourself from the situation. Now, disclaimer, as I always say, if you have children, you can't just jump up and leave, because if you look at certain states and certain laws, you cannot just jump up and leave. They've got abandonment laws. They have child abduction laws. They have, the Amber Alerts. You go to court, they can get your child from you, and they really don't want anything to do with your child. They just want to use your child as a pawn in the game of chess to hurt you and put that dagger deeper in your heart. And you know for a fact that they could care less. That child is being used to hurt you. And so you got to be wise. You got to use, domestic violence advocacy programs in order to get them to document and put things on paper. So when you show up in court, you have some backing. Now, like I said in every video, I just don't feel like dealing, and it doesn't work for me, and I don't want, well, do you? You do your own thing, and then tell me how that works out when you keep on circling back in a 360 circle. Yes, 360. You keep circling 360. And the same thing keeps happening over and over again. You keep asking yourself, I don't understand why I'm stuck in this loop, because you're doing it your way. And even though it doesn't work for me, no, you need somebody to document. So you need a domestic violence advocate, a good advocate that understands or knows how dysfunctional relationships work. They may not understand, exactly narcissists, but a good advocate understands how to advocate for you in court, because it is domestic violence. And sometimes you can't go into court using the term narcissist. That's a narcissist. A court system is dependent on facts. What are the facts? He or she is doing this. There's proof that I have this. They are, abusing me physically, emotionally, financially. That you get with that domestic advocate, and you want one that has experience, that knows how to document, to take that paperwork into court with you, to try to get you protection. And most family courts, those judges that work in there know the advocates, because the advocates come in there very often. Ask for a skilled advocate. Ask for one that has done this for a while. Ask them, are you accustomed to working with high conflict cases? Just like lawyers, high conflict cases. Don't go on, you know how to work with a narcissist. No, do you know how to work with high conflict cases? One that knows, those that know how to manipulate the court system and use the courts against me. Those are the ones that you want. And most judges are familiar with the advocates that come in and out of court. That's what you want. So you can't just jump up and leave with your child, because they will use that against you in the court. But the one thing that you have to do is you have to cut that fear. That's the fuel. Cut that fear. Get away, cut that fear. Don't show them that you are afraid. I don't care if you're trembling on the inside. You cut that fuel line. Cut the fuel line. But I'll teach you how to do it in a class.